Everyone selling you turn $100 into a million is lying, but not the way you think. The million is real. The math works. It's just so boring nobody can monetize it. There's no pick, no hustle, no secret. Just three dials and the number most people refuse to wait for. Let me show you the math nobody runs. Welcome to Smart Investing Journey, where broke ends and ownership begins. This is the anti-get-rich-quick channel. And today is the most anti-get-rich-quick video I've ever made. Because I'm not going to hype you. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to bore you into being wealthy. By the end of this, you'll understand the three dials that turn $100 into a million, which one is secretly doing all the work, and why almost nobody ever gets there. Let's run the number. Let me guess what you're thinking. $100 into a million? That's a scam. That's a guy in a rented Lamborghini pointing at a chart. And you're right to be suspicious, because the version they sell you is a lie. The lie isn't the million. The lie is the speed. They want you to believe it happens fast, with one lucky pick, if you just buy their course. So here's the honest version, and they need you to sit with it for a second, because it's going to feel too simple to be true. Turning 100 into a million was never about a $100 bill. It's about $100 becoming a habit. It's a small amount turned into an automatic contribution left completely alone, writing an ordinary market return for a long, long time. That's it. That's the whole secret. No secret. And the reason nobody sells it to you is that you can't put "wait patiently for 30 years" on a thumbnail. But I can. So let me show you the three dials. Time, rate, amount. Turn all three and the million stops being magic. It becomes math. Let's run the number nobody runs. Right now, out loud. Here's the honest math. If you invest about $100 a month into a plain, boring, broad market fund at a normal long-term return and you leave it completely alone, in around 45 years, that becomes roughly $1 million. Let that land. Not $100 once, $100 a month, left alone for decades. Now here's what most people get wrong. They hear 45 years and they check out. Too long, not worth it. But watch what actually happens inside those years, because it is not a straight line. For the first 10 years, it's painfully slow. You'll have put in $12,000 and it'll be worth maybe 16. You'll feel like nothing's happening. That's the part where everyone quits. But the money you invested in year one isn't working for 1 year. It's working for 45. And the growth on the growth on the growth, that's the part that goes vertical at the end. The last 10 years of that curve add more than the first 30 combined. The person who wins isn't the one who invested the most. It's the one who stayed in long enough to reach the steep part. That's the math nobody runs, because it's boring for a decade before it's breathtaking. Boring isn't the price of the strategy. Boring is the strategy. Dial 1. Time. And I'm telling you up front, this is the dial that does almost all the work. This is the one your title promised you. Let me prove it with two people. Meet early Emma. At 22, she invests $100 a month for just 10 years. Then she stops completely. Never adds another dollar. Total in $12,000. Now meet late Leo. Leo waits. He's busy. He's not ready. He'll start later. At 35, he begins investing $100 a month and he never stops all the way to 65. Total in $36,000. 3 times more money than Emma. Here's the part that should rearrange your brain. At 65, Emma, who stopped at 32, often ends up with as much or more than Leo, who invested 3 times as much for 3 times as long. Same return. Emma just gave her money more time. This is why $100 today can beat $10,000 10 years from now. What most people get wrong is they think the amount is the lever. It isn't. Time is the lever. There's a quick way to feel this. The rule of 72. Take 72 divided by your return. At a normal return, your money doubles about every 7 years. So the question isn't how much you start with. It's how many doublings you have left. And every year you wait, you don't lose a year of contributions. You lose a doubling at the end, the biggest one. Call back to my 1% move video. Small, early, consistent beats big, late, and heroic every single time. Time is the only dial you can't get back. Now hold on, because I already hear the objection, and it's the most important one in this whole video. But I don't have 45 years. I'm already behind. Stay with me. I'm going to answer that head on in a minute, and the answer is more hopeful than you think. But first, do something for me. Comment the number you're starting with. $10, $100, whatever's real. Say it out loud in the comments, because a number you name is a number you start. And if this is reframing how you see money, subscribe. This is a system, and systems only pay off if you stay.
Dial 2, rate. This is your return. And this is where the grifters live, because rate is the exciting dial, and excitement is what they sell. So let me tell you the boring truth about returns. You do not need a spectacular return. You need an ordinary one you can actually keep for decades. Here's what most people get wrong, and it's the most expensive mistake in investing. They think more risk always means more money. It doesn't. Chasing the hot pick, jumping between meme stocks, trying to time the perfect entry, that behavior doesn't raise your return. On average, it lowers it, because you buy high on hype and sell low on fear. The exciting portfolio underperforms the boring one, not because the math is different, but because you can't leave it alone. A plain, broad, boring index fund quietly beats most people picking exciting things. And there's a reason for this, and it's wired into your brain. Your brain is built to run from losses and chase dopamine. So when the market drops, fear screams sell. When something's mooning, greed screams buy. Follow those signals and you'll do the exact opposite of what works. Buy high, sell low. On repeat. Boring investing isn't about being smarter than that instinct. It's about building a system that never asks the instinct for permission. Different strategy, different behavior, different result. And notice the trap. The more thrilling you make the rate dial, the more you damage the time dial, because thrill makes you sell. You reach for a better return and you accidentally shorten your runway. So here's the reframe that changes everything. You don't need a better return. You need a longer runway. Set the rate dial to boring and broad, then never touch it again. The boring return you keep for 30 years destroys the exciting return you panic out of in 3. Dial 3, amount. This is what you contribute, and this is the dial you actually control the most today. Now the beautiful thing is, you already know where the money comes from because we found it together last video. Remember the subtraction portfolio? Those 20 things you stopped buying, that $8,000 you stopped leaking? That money doesn't just disappear into your account. This is what you do with it. The money you stopped leaking becomes the seed you now plant. That's the whole sequence. Subtract the waste, then plant the difference. Here's what most people get wrong about the amount dial. They think they need a big amount to start, so they wait until they have one, and waiting murders the time dial. Wrong move. The trick isn't a big amount, it's an automatic one. Call back to my automation video. You set it up once on a Sunday so the contribution leaves before you can feel it, before willpower ever gets a vote. Because you will never outdiscipline a system. $100 you have to choose to invest every month will fail. $100 that moves automatically while you sleep will make you a millionaire. And as your income grows, go watch my video on writing, because writing is the multiplier. You turn the amount dial up. Same system, bigger seed. But hear me on this. Start the dial today at whatever's real, even if it's $10, because a small amount turning today beats a big amount turning someday. Now let me protect you, because knowing the 3 dials isn't enough. There are 4 forces that quietly murder the million before it's ever born, and every one of them feels harmless in the moment. Killer 1. Fees. A 2% fee sounds tiny. Over 45 years, it can eat 1/3 or more of your final number. That's not a fee. That's a silent partner taking 1/3 of your retirement for doing nothing. Run the real math. A $250,000 outcome can shrink by $70,000 or $80,000 just from a fee that looked like a rounding error. Keep your costs boring and low. Killer 2, panic selling. The market will crash. Multiple times, guaranteed. The people who lose aren't the ones who were in the crash. There's the ones who sold during it and locked the loss in forever. Killer 3, early withdrawals. Every time you pull money out, you don't just lose that money. You lose every future doubling it would have created. You're not spending $100. You're spending the $10,000 it would have become. And Killer 4, Lifestyle creep, where every raise gets eaten before it can ever reach the amount dial. You make more, you spend more, the seed never grows. Fees, panic, withdrawals, creep. Guard against those four and the boring math finishes the job on its own. Okay, I promised I'd answer it, so here it is. I don't have 45 years. I'm 35, 40, 45. I'm already behind. First, breathe. Being late is not the same as being locked out. The 45-year number was never the point. It was just the cleanest way to show you the shape of the curve. Here's the honest truth for late starters. You still have doublings left. Maybe not 7 of them, maybe 3 or 4, but 3 doublings turns 10,000 into 80,000, and 4 turns it into 160. That is not nothing. That is a completely different retirement. And here's the move when you're late. You lean harder on the one dial you still control, amount. You can't add years to the front, so you add dollars to the middle. A late starter who turns the amount dial up aggressively can close a shocking amount of the gap. What most people get wrong is they use "I'm behind" as the reason to never start, which guarantees the exact outcome they're afraid of. The worst starting date was 20 years ago. The second best is today. Late still beats never by a mile. Every single time. Now, hear me on this, because this is the real lesson underneath all the numbers. This was never about being smart. The person who wins at this is almost never the smartest one in the room. It's the most boring one. It's the person who set up 3 dials and then had the discipline to do absolutely nothing for 30 years while everyone around them chased something shinier and ended up with less. Motivation is a lie. Discipline is overrated. Repetition builds wealth. The genius who quits in year 3 loses to the amateur who stays boring until year 30. You don't have to be brilliant. You have to be patient. And patience, it turns out, is the rarest financial superpower there is. So let's lock in the 3 dials in order so you actually walk away with this. Dial 1, time. The dominant dial, the one you can't buy back. Start today because every year you wait costs you a doubling at the end, the biggest one. Dial 2. Rate. Set it boring and broad, then never touch it, because the return you keep beats the return you brag about. Dial 3. Amount. Automate it. Feed it with the money you stopped leaking, and turn it up as your income grows. And guard all 3 from the 4 killers: fees, panic selling, early withdrawals, and lifestyle creep. Now, here's how you actually start, because a framework you admire is worthless, and a framework you use is $1 million. Don't try to invest $100 a month tomorrow if that's not real for you. Do this instead. Step 1. This week, open one boring investment account. Just open it. Step 2. Automate one small transfer. $10, $100, whatever's real, for one day after your paycheck lands. Step 3, and this is the hard one, forget the password. Let it be boring. Let it be slow. Let it reach the steep part of the curve. Picture 2 versions of you a decade from now. One kept waiting for the perfect amount, the perfect pick, the perfect time. Still on the sidelines, still feeling behind. The other one started this week with $10 boring and just never stopped. Same income, same starting point. The only difference was who turned the first dial today. So here's who you are after today. You're not someone waiting for a windfall anymore. You're not someone who needs a lucky pick or a raise or the perfect moment to begin. That person is gone. You're the owner of 3 dials, and you understand the secret the hype sellers will never put on a thumbnail. You don't need a better return. You need a longer runway. You don't need to be brilliant. You need to be boring on purpose for a long time. The million was never locked behind a secret you had to buy. It was locked behind a weight most people won't do. But you will, because you finally understand that time is the only dial you can't get back, and the best time to turn it was 20 years ago, and the second best time is the next 10 minutes. There's no pick, no hustle, no secret, just you, 3 dials, and the most patient, boring, unstoppable math in the world, quietly building the exact life you were always able to afford. If this rewired how you think about money, subscribe, because this is a system, and systems only pay off if you stay. Drop your starting number in the comments. I read every one. And next video, I'm going deeper on the late start playbook, the exact accounts, the aggressive amount dial math, and how to compress 20 years of catching up into 10. I'll see you there. This is Smart Investing Journey, where broke ends and ownership begins.